Well, there's no doubt the state has their challenges. I'm probably an $8 billion hole in the next 2 year biennial budget. What's been frustrating to me as a state senator, last December we had an $852 billion hole because in July or June last year when we were finalizing the budget, we told the governor that if he wanted to put the slot machines of video, whatever you call those, in the racetracks, that had to go to the vote of the people, or else it was going to be challenged in court. And immediately his executive order was challenged in court, went to the Supreme Court, and they ruled unanimously that it had to be voted of the people. He couldn't do it by executive order, and that created the $852 million budget in December. And I stood up on the Senate floor and said, you know, I hope that, let me back up. Last fall, when you guys were having a meeting down in Cambridge, the governor was the speaker, and he said, I'll quote, he said, I have no shame going back to the administration and Congress and ask for more stimulus dollars to balance my budget in the future. And I stood up on the Senate floor and I said that because I said, I hope that's not the game plan, but apparently that is the game plan. And now the commission that was formed to look at this and budget just started meeting here the last couple of weeks, and so going through the you know, find out, you know, how bad things are. You know, the longer you wait and to address the issue at the federal level or at the state level, your options are decreased immensely, and your options are limited, and the options get worse. You know, they're limited and they're not very good options the longer you wait. And that's one of my fears, is that the state now has waited, and it's going to be ugly, because about 90% of the state revenue, the general revenue fund budget, is several areas: higher education, primary and secondary education, human services, and corrections. Only about 8.8% of the state dollars, the funding of the GRF, go for state agencies, and the rest of that type of stuff. Of course, transportation is separate. So what I like to say, obviously there was stimulus money used. I know the administration here in Ohio is looking for more stimulus dollars. I think that's just prolonging the day of reckoning. We have to address it. And how you address it is we get confidence back, and that's one reason why I decided to run for Congress, because I do see that the global problem is policies coming out of Washington, D.C. And when I meet with business people all over the 18th Congressional District, my Senate District, I'm finding that there are a lot of them are sitting on their hands because they're scared to death of what the future is. All this uncertainty with cap and trade, what energy costs are going to do. I've talked to business people that are not hiring employees now, just the sole fact of the so-called healthcare reform legislation, what that cost is going to do too. I mentioned the healthcare legislation that they passed. 555,000 new people in Ohio will be put on Medicaid. That's doubling the Medicaid rolls here in Ohio, which 40% of that is paid for out of state tax dollars, state taxpayers. So we're putting some of the programs that this administration, this Congress, and Nancy Pelosi are supporting are going to put more burden on state taxpayers and state legislatures. But we need to get this back to what I'm saying about the businesses. The good thing I see, there's a lot of pent-up demand out there, and businesses had the confidence that we were going to be a solid economic ground moving forward, and had some certainty coming out of Washington that's going to be, we're not going to raise taxes, we're going to get our fiscal house in order, we're going to rein in the burdensome regulations, that there's pent-up demand out there and they will invest. So there's something to talk about what we need to do to give them more confidence. But the global aspect is what I said: fiscal responsibility at the federal level, and lower the tax burden and not increase taxes like this current Congress is doing.
Thank you. We're about halfway, a little actually past halfway on our time, so we'll switch. Candidates going first. Senator, you'll be up. The question for you is, what programs are you willing to cut to bring down the national debt and/or the federal budget deficit?
Well, I think everything's got to be on the table. If you look back when Ronald Reagan was sworn in on Inauguration Day, the first thing he did, I think he was still at the podium, he signed an executive order to freeze government spending. And you remember the years before that we were in a misery index of very high inflation and unemployment, and well, we got to do better than that. We got to challenge ourselves on the discretionary side of the spending table to get back to fiscal year 07 levels. And I think when you look at what happened here in the last couple of budgets, the last 2 years, the double-digit increases in that budget, that's the way we need to work. We need to stop the bailouts. We need to stop spending the TARP money. We need to stop all that. And as your previous speaker, as Mr. Johnson said, the down of the arts, he made a very good point there. I like to say we have all these candidate forms in the primary, and we say A to Z. Everything's got to be on the table. Everything's got to be looked at. We need to make, we need to make, our elected officials in Congress need to make our bureaucrats, our agencies responsible and accountable, and bring them in. And some areas, maybe we ought to start talking about zero-based budgeting, performance audits. We need to make sure we get that done. And our goal should be to cut spending, because if we don't, here's the issue. If we don't cut spending, it's not going to matter in a few short years, because there's not going to be anything left there. That pie is not going to be left. It's all going to be going to entitlements and service of the debt. And one thing I learned when I first got in the legislature in 2003, people come in and everybody's got a great program, good program. And, when the economy's going strong, like it was in the 90s, government grew a lot. And the reason it grew a lot because it's easier to say yes to all these programs. We got to prioritize and do what we need to do, fulfill our contractual arrangements with our seniors, citizens, but we need to prioritize, and we need to go in there and cut where we can find where it needs to be cut. If we don't do it, it's not going to matter, because we're in a situation like Greece is going to be in, some of the other countries in Western Europe. And so we need to move forward and be committed to that. And we need to have a serious conversation with the American people on the entitlements, like I said earlier. Social Security and Medicare, obviously, people that are near retirement or are in retirement, we have that contractual relationship. We need to fulfill that. But I think the younger folks coming in, the 20s and the 30-something, most of them, when you talk to them, don't expect any Social Security anyways. But we need to have a serious conversation with the American people, how we move forward on those programs to make sure that there will be a program for their retirement. And we don't do things like pass cap and trade, we repeal the health care that was passed, because that is $1 trillion or more to the federal deficit. And we just don't do those kind of things. And I think if we can get back down to those fiscal year 07, 08 levels and move forward. And on the second part of the ledger, we have to grow the economy, because we can't do it all with spending cuts. We've got to grow the economy, and how we do that is, like I've been saying, restore confidence in our private sector, and I have confidence in the private sector, and they have that confidence. We unleash that spirit and innovation, and they move forward, because there is pent-up demand out there, let me tell you. And supply-side economics really do work. If you look at Ronald Reagan when they cut taxes, when the tax cuts took effect, we saw tremendous GDP growth, the longest economic expansion in our history of this country. And I'm fearful if they let the tax cuts expire January 1st, we're going to have a reverse, and we're going to be into a double dip. And you know what that is. It's not going to be pretty. And I don't like to be pessimistic, but that's why it's so important that we change some people in Congress and change the Pelosi and Reid and Obama agenda. Thank you.